Hey guys, under Hodge, Seven of Truth once more. Looking to expand the multidimensional method to the 3D madness theme that I've been sort of offering and focusing on of late. My intent behind this is to offer you some of the very, very hard and expansive lessons and techniques that I sort of learned over my journey, to offer them to you sort of on the plate, so to speak. If you've listened to the past recordings that I've done, I've been through a lot of stuff, huge amount of stuff, which has never really been talked about or shared. The way I've operated is, what I do is I wear my victories on my psychic sleeve, if that makes sense. And it's up to the individual, to tune into what I've been involved in and stuff like that. What I've found is it's not an ego thing or judgment or anything, but very few people are able to perceive what I've been involved in. And I've held myself that way for a very long time. Not in hope or anything like that, but just to discern people and what they can tune into and their talents. It's a bit of a perception, identify if people can, and talk about that stuff. I don't do it in ego or anything like that. I do it as a sense of, I offer it as a teaching, okay? I wouldn't have done that stuff unless I had a solid foundation on many things, such as the data of the world, right? The really truth of what's going on, okay? And then with that foundation, learning many techniques, how to hold myself and endure a lot of stuff, reverse engineering the shit that happens in my life and being honest with myself where I had the gaps and where I was naive and where I assumed trust in people and their abilities to perceive things, and the difference between their soul intent and their 3D 5 sense intent of what they're wanting to accomplish. The reality is that the majority here are governed by the 3D 5 sense, okay? Most people are trying to survive, make a existence, go into the patterns of breeding children and stuff like that, and wanting to bring up future generations and those sort of things. And I have no problem what an individual chooses to do with their life. It's very brave to sort of have the responsibility of bringing a life into this world. As an example, I knew in myself, based on what I went through when I was young, I had to move 15 times before I was 5. Things like that. I know what my father went through now in hindsight, just to afford me the privilege of being here now, targeting and all those sort of things, all right? So in me imparting this information and these concepts, my pure aim is to help you as the individual. If you're able to tune into what I'm offering and see some benefit, see some gaps in your life and stuff, is to help accelerate you to potentially getting up to the speed if you need these components to integrate, so you also can contribute at whatever level you have the potential to be. My whole thing is infinite potential healing, infinite potential. Why do we have blocks? Why do we accept sort of paradigms for ourselves and stuff like that? And it's a very complex thing, and I'm very respectful of it and the challenges of being here, enduring on the soul level for so long. But Earth is not easy. Earth is the toughest gig ever in the multiverse, all right? I accept that, and I accept my responsibility for the awareness I've developed over the years and understandings. Very solid foundation of accepting the reality and existence as it is, okay? So my rationale for sharing the things that I do the way I do is to offer the very critical components that I've had to integrate without compromise, without doubt, right? I know if I don't employ these sort of things and this sort of pattern recognition and understanding and stuff, then I may leave gaps in my energy field and stuff like that. And the potential is to always have gaps that you don't know, okay? As we expand, we realize what we didn't know, and we integrate that, and we add on and chip away. What I'm about is controlling the variables that you have the ability to control. So doubt and all those sort of things, and emotional gaps, and lack of self-worth, and all these sort of things. Lack of self-respect is a big thing as well. You can sort of control the variables that you can. So the variables you can't are easy to deal with when situations arise. All right, it's a bit like in some of the videos and stuff that I've created, I've used the metaphor of the movie Aliens, not the first one, the second one, and it was directed by James Cameron, and it's pretty much a horror movie and stuff, and I hate that stuff, okay? But there's a scene in it where the Marines have been smashed, all right? Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's character has been trying to tell them. They wouldn't listen to her. They got totally shellacked, okay? Then they're regrouping in this building, and they've got a time limit that they need to endure and all this sort of stuff. And what happens is they set up a bunker, an Alamo, if you like, and they attempt to hold their space until they can get the aircraft down from space to come and collect them and get out of the place, all right? And what happened is the aliens are very, very smart. They attempt to get through their main effort, the main corridor from where their base is and stuff like that, and they get smacked by guns and stuff like that. And then what happens is they're trying to beat the humans. Long story short, in this base, the fortification that they'd set up, they used what they perceived that they could see based on where they're at, okay? Corridors, pathways, and all that sort of stuff. They didn't think about other levels, for instance, the multidimensional aspects and stuff like that, the metaphor. What the aliens did, they learnt to get through the air vents, all right, the air conditioning and stuff, and their fortification and barriers were totally overrun, and they couldn't tell. They had no concept of how their defense was being broken down, okay, until they thought laterally and realized, oh shit, there's the air vents, and they could see on their detection technology that the aliens were penetrating their defense. And then they realized, oh shit, we left this whole gap, we didn't even think about it, and we were totally exposed, okay? So metaphorically speaking, the potential of having gaps is pretty much a constant. And constant's probably not the right word. It's born into this world the way we learn, being a totally open book, unsovereign, to be compromised and all that sort of stuff, with a reality that's designed for tacitly consenting us to make us choose a pathway, all right, where technically our free will is choosing it, but we didn't realize there were other options, okay? And that's where you need to have a observer ability to hold your space and be able to assess all the options around you, all right? And especially ones that you don't know that are there. So, and I'll give you a drawing of what I'm sort of talking about. This is relative to your energy field, all right? So when I talk gaps, right, say emotionally lack or depression or whatever and stuff like that, alright? So ideally you want to be solid and sensing your energy bubble, alright? And I'm using this as a metaphor of training, teaching, what I'm trying to say, alright? So the way I am is I can feel when efforts are to sort of compromise my energy field and stuff like that, okay? And this is an example of, say if you've got a gap, and I'll use emotion state, right? If you got fear or lack or depression or those sort of things, all right? Just see it as, say, a metaphoric crack in the dam, okay? So, and then what can happen is your defense could get down, exposed, and then compromise can happen. So say you imagine those two arrows going into the body are targeting the parasympathetic, right? So either one going to the lower section of the body could be like an entity trying to tap into your lower sexual energy and stuff like that, you know, because people carry around entities and stuff. So what I'm sort of suggesting is the majority of people have no awareness that there is such thing as psychic defense, and your emotional state is a pretty important component to that, all right? So a lot of people don't even realize that their emotions aren't even theirs, all right? They can be picking up from people around them, being empathic, all right? And the empathy can, it's not an observer empathy, it's a entanglement empathy that takes on the state of another, which can, again, compromise your energy field. So what you want to be able to do is be able to get into this state no matter what, all right? No matter what. And what I've learned over the years are two things. The two things are what I call the sanctuary state, okay? And that is basically, if I can hold it, sanctuary state, okay? So imagine on the emotional level inside yourself, you hold yourself no matter what, all right? And what I call a sanctuary state is where there's a saying, know thyself, all right? So when you know thyself, you can tell what's you and what's not you, all right? There's nothing wrong having issues and emotional experiences and stuff like that. Just be aware that why do you need to experience them? Go to that source, okay? And what I'm going to do is get into talking about how I came up with the sanctuary state, okay? And I base it on something that I call the sanctuary space, okay? So the sanctuary state, okay? I'm going to try and explain this. So what I'm sort of defining are two components, and I might make this into a separate video, okay? Two separate videos. The first one talking about the sanctuary state, with sanctuary space, which what I'm saying is a foundational component to that next level. So what I'm going to do is share you. This is an image I just drew, and I was trying to explain infinite potential healing and stuff like that, okay? So just see this as the foundation of the present where we might be, okay? And what that line above with the arrows pointing down is the ceiling of where we might see our potential, okay? So what I'm all about is infinite potential. And what I try to instill in people is have the courage to recognize where your limits are. Why do you impose them on yourself, all right? And then once you get past that, make that your future foundation for the next level. And so see, I've drawn that arrow that goes above the line, like that ceiling pointing down, and then there's a arrow pointing up, and all those X's, okay? You imagine potentials that are out there, okay? But what I like to sort of instill and take responsibility for in me is I have the control over my state, okay? I have the control over my fate, where I see myself, right? Those potentials, we can become passive and waiting for them to realize in our lives without changing or doing anything. What I like to do for myself is accept control over where I'm at and why they might not be entering into my life. So what I do is I take control, I observe the ceilings I might be placing on myself that are blocks to accessing the potentials that might be waiting for me, but I have to be a match to them. So see that ceiling as a new foundation that is a prerequisite and a foundational component to accessing those potentials that may be on the other side. I like that philosophy because what it tells me is I'm determining on my fate, no matter what, all right? I can control the outcome by my effort, my ability to heal, and my thoroughness on what I do and stuff like that, okay? So when I do infinite potential healing and people might be influenced and blocked and all that sort of stuff, okay, I look to help them to get to the next level, such as if you watch Altered Carbon and the envoys, getting to the next screen. Just see that next level. The foundation is the next screen as an envoy, all right, metaphorically speaking. So what can happen is we have a challenge of actually seeing our ceilings. We don't even know we're in them, right? A lot of people say, yeah, I'm infinite and all that, but you have a conversation with them and they tell you what their limits are, okay? So just have the courage to observe yourself and see that as a pattern, all right? The next screen, the envoy is the next screen, okay? So if I get back to this, what I'm trying to say is, in order to go from there to that, what I'm wanting to do is offer one of the components that I worked out, okay? I'll share another image, okay? So this I've shown to many people, right? This is a concept I sort of have about our existence, okay? See the line going across with the arrow? That's time, right? And see that as our lives from a high dimensional level being observable, all right? So say from our soul level, when we review our life and stuff, we go through that stuff, okay? But say the technology and the infrastructure here, we're under constant observation, okay? So down here, these ups and downs, they're our life, all right? We go through joy, excitement, success, failure, disappointments, breakups, relationships, all that sort of stuff. So if you're, what I'm trying to offer here is a pattern of our existence in the 3D 5 sense. We're defined by the 3D 5 sense and time, all right? The technology and the infrastructure and the forces here that are in control, it's not their case, okay? They have an advantage over us, okay? It's not a weakness or a vulnerability. I like to see the 3D 5 sense earth reality as the ultimate challenge on the soul level. And if the 3D 5 sense can't limit and define us, well, they're greatly advantaged, okay? It means that they need that and we don't, okay? If the rules of the free will sort of universe means that tacit consent and non-violation and karma and all those sort of things as a consequence of violation are all at play, then once you understand the game, all right, you can navigate through it. You can, like Richard Alan Miller described, that we flow, not touching the sides and stuff, right? I like to think of life as a ski slalom, and I've never skied, I've never seen snow, right? But if you're into the Winter Olympics and stuff, how they got this slalom, like the skiing downhill, I think it's slalom, and they have to go through red and green fences, right? And their idea is to not hit them, to find a way through, right, and navigate down the hill as fast as they can, going through the fences and stuff, right? So see that line that goes up and down, right? We have ups and downs in life, okay? And see the overall force above us, can see when we have the dips through time, right? So they are waiting for our dips. If you're doing the Galactic Special Forces level of stuff, all right, trust me, they're waiting for the dips, like bankruptcy. Smash you, all right? Smash everyone around you. That's what happened to me. Compromise all the healers and all that, and then they're compounding it all, so you don't have anyone to trust, all right? So see life as a chart. Remember what I said in the last video about the patterns, okay? I'll just bring it up quick. See the metaphor of the currency trading and trending of the herd and the trader, okay? Where the ups and downs, and see the opposite, because the trend is changing, because the energy is maxed out, all right? Like, to have a trend that goes down, there's a lot of energy for that flow to go, bad news and all that sort of stuff. There's a finite amount that a trend can go, all right? There's a balance and a harmony, all right, that goes on. Nothing always goes in one line. I'll bring up the other image. It's more like that, okay? The key is to identify the trends, okay? What I've done with the menu is unique, the outcome common, and the past video about the contrarian view and stuff, all right, is to identify patterns going on around you, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'll bring the other image back. When you can identify the patterns of your life, all right, you can see the ups and downs and the trends, okay? So what I was saying before is the 3D 5 cents, all right? There's a time variable. We need sleep, we need food, we need to sustain ourselves, we need shelter, we need a place to sleep, people hopefully to trust. But what I'm saying is maybe the only person you're only going to be able to trust is yourself, because you're so advanced, you've dedicated yourself to all this stuff, you've compromised your life to maintain yourself, you know? Like I said about my pattern with my father and stuff like that. What happened to me is I was moved 15 times. What I know is the criminality energy was targeting my father, all right, to compromise him, and create division between my mother and father and stuff like that. And what happened is we had to constantly move, keep on the run. What I know is my father was my defense, right? He was taking all the hits to protect me and hide me energetically. I come from a very interesting bloodline, which I just basically get into the Dutch Illuminati sort of stuff, right? So I've got a lot of codes and stuff. And so if you're thinking like a father and your children, okay, down the track, maybe your children are meant to do this sort of stuff, right? But you're here, you know, and so if they smash your ancestors, it has a flow-on effect, you know. They may prevent a mission down the track, right? So see the observer at the top, you know, did videos with someone that we talked about the prediction technology in the control rooms and stuff like that, right? I'm very aware that I wouldn't have made those shows unless I had a first-hand experience of the consequence of them, alright? So just see your life and lives of your ancestors and your future generations are pretty much predictable, okay? Just because you don't think that that's possible, see that as a gap, alright? So I talked about before the 3D 5 sense reality, okay? By design it's very tough, okay? I'm going to bring up another image. So I showed this image in the last video, which the box being the 3D 5 sense, okay? And that variable on the outside is a multidimensional aspect, alright? You think about psychic attacks by certain aspects that are here that enjoy the status quo, alright? When the solutions for the reality are not in the 3D 5 sense by design, it's designed to perpetuate the control here, okay? So things like being able to be predicted through future lives, alright, your ancestors in the past and stuff, that's a variable that's on the outside. It's not accepted in the reality, okay? But when you start doing problem solving, pattern recognition and stuff, you know, you have to sort of get to the point where there's something bigger going on, alright? And so what I'm wanting to do in this particular video is talk about a component that I learned in order to endure all that stuff, alright? So when I show this, alright, I speak from experience. In the very first video that I offered that's remaining public, I talked about my ex-sister-in-law that was had epilepsy, right? And what I knew is that, and what I cleared was, it was basically a demon that was messing with her, okay? So like these points, alright? So I've given a lot of the Galactic Special Forces recordings, particularly part 4, okay? What I said in that is I was working in a really messed up, energetic, demonic portal. My sister-in-law was working there with the entity that was all attacking me, attacking my legs. December 22nd, 2015, Nikki, Maria, another lady and myself, we cleared the womb chakra that I guard, okay? Then Christmas Day and the day after, we flew up on Christmas morning to Ayers Rock and went to Kings Canyon and a few other places and cleared them, and then on the day after we cleared Ayers Rock. Right. So these sort of things are predictable. These sort of things and missions are totally predictable. So I use the many unique outcome common, right? We can be reverse engineered on the same thing. So if you see that this is a metaphor of how our life goes, how predictable we are because we as a society are unwilling to accept that there is anything beyond the 3D 5 sense. We self-impose those constraints upon ourselves by what we're willing to accept, what is comfortable, rather than the accepting of the vastness of what is, alright? When you look at things like the electromagnetic spectrum, we only see a tiny slither of that, okay? It's courageous to realize that, you know, maybe there is more than what we have been told. So I hope this helps you realize how obvious and predictable we really are, alright? And we're the ones that define what we're willing to accept. Because how our society and culture is rather than what is in the universe, alright? So if we accept our predictability, okay, if we accept that there is infrastructure around the place and beings that have an awareness of us on a level we seldom even contemplate, let alone accepting, how do we endure that? Okay, how do we overcome that? How do we do what we're meant to do? Okay, in the spiritual community, there's a real acquiescive sort of concept saying, things are meant to happen, things are unfolding as they are meant to be, and all that sort of stuff. And my attitude to that, right, and I come from the Galactic Special Forces missions, recordings, level of work, okay, that's a bogus concept, right? That acquiescing, submissive to things that unfold is a very vulnerable state, okay? So if I could bring up that other image. So if you look at this image, how can I describe it the best? It's a very noble way to see things, that our life unfolds the way it's meant to be, alright? So things that happen that might be negative, alright, we say, we accept that we're meant to experience them and stuff like that, right? What if you see those gaps and the majority of people are sort of submissive on a spiritual level because they accept things unfold and they're not in control, alright? There's this plan going on, blah, 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 alright? And what I'm saying is, in order to be like that, do Galactic Special Forces level stuff, you have to accept that, because how vast and complex existence is rather than what we've sort of accepted majority of the time is, if I go back to the other image, if you're willing to sort of say a lot of the concepts that we accept in the spiritual community actually leave gaps, alright, then there can be forces waiting for those moments when maybe you're meant to do something really big and it smashes you to sidetrack you, alright? Derail your life. For instance, bankruptcy. Have certain people around me tell me I chose it, okay? So when you can find someone that says they chose to destroy their financial existence when they were a currency trader, please let me know. I would love to meet them, alright? It's just a funny concept, alright? What I know in my life, I chose to make the most out of it no matter what, alright? So what I've learned is, say, the things that we are defined by in the 3D 5 sense reality, okay, like houses, property, materialism and all that sort of stuff, those things can be used against us, okay? So we'll go back to the other image. Imagine some of those gaps are greed, for instance, alright? So you can compromise yourself based on monetary gain, okay? When you got to recognize that money is a hook, alright, that might get into you, okay? So going for the comforts in life might be the wrong path, for instance. It's probably not the best way of explaining it, but just see, if I go back to another image, see the 3D 5 sense things, alright? So if I go to this image again, the 3D 5 sense stuff, that, like, see, money, status, fame, public acceptance, bigger audience sort of stuff. See, those things can create gaps where we might contort ourselves into accommodating those sort of things, accommodating the reality, okay? Which can open your field up to compromise and psychic interference and stuff like that, right? So what I've tried to do here is basically offer how predictable you are and the constraints we have to accommodate, the 3D 5 sense, make what we have to do that much more harder, alright? When you're up here, and you're observing it all, in no time, against us that have to endure time, have to source food and nourishment and sleep and rest and all that, right? Just how obvious we are, right? How predictable we are. Then how do you endure that, right? How do you overcome that, right? Because in my life, right, one thing I learned, say, watching Michael Jordan and stuff, he never told you he was wounded, right? And if someone told him he was wounded, that made him literally froth at the mouth and take advantage of it, right? Because basketball at the NBA level is like gladiatorial war, okay? You had to be ready for the 82 games, the 9 months and all that, and then be ready for the playoffs and stuff like that, right? So how do we endure the 3D 5 cents, right? When all this stuff is around us, right? And geared to maintaining a status quo here, so we have to go through lives, we have to go through the forgetting, getting ourselves up to speed and stuff like that, right? Going through all the ups and downs of my life, say going back to the early Galactic Special Forces back in 2014, I was living on $10 a day, right? I had to walk 10 to 15 kilometers a day to get food or whatever, and live off 1.5 meals a day, okay? Poverty was a great ally, because what it taught me is emotional mastery, because literally I had to budget the emotions I was experiencing, alright? I realized there's two components to emotion. There's experiencing it, and then there's returning to the original state, alright? So you go through fear, and you've got to go through the anti-fear to go back to neutral, alright? What I realized is, why the fuck go through all the shit, alright? You don't have to, alright? That's the difference between observing and getting entangled and stuff, allowing your body to react, allowing your mind to influence you and stuff. Polarization. And then getting into the missions and stuff, which in a later video I'm going to share some of my healing stories, which might be really interesting to you. What I learned from myself is, again, going back to this, alright? What happened to me over and over again is, so you imagine this point is where I actually accepted myself as a healer, okay? And then all the potentials that come after that, right? But I've had people come to me over the years that what I equate to on the soul levels, they knew I was here to do what I was doing, but I wasn't ready in the 3D 5 cents, right? So people would come to me when I was still developing and stuff like that, right? But that self-acceptance of being a healer was a very, very powerful thing, and it came after a lot of exploration and stuff like that, right? Because I see the responsibility of being a healer is absolutely something to be very, very humble about, because like I said, these dips, you might have a bad day, okay? You might be going through all this shit in your life and it smashes you, right? And then you might have a really traumatized, haunted, influenced client that comes to see you, and then, okay, go back to this image. If you're off balance in your life and you're allowing gaps via your state, alright, the shit that you might be dealing with the clients might come through to you because your guard and defense isn't up, alright? And see, someone like me that, and I've offered this a lot of times, if you text me and stuff, me tuning into the answer, what that does, I have to contemplate many variables, okay? I have to tune into what is an appropriate answer to you, and that processing of inclusive of another variable is where you come into my field. You know, when I was naive to it, and I would hear and clear you, alright? It was instant. I knew I was doing it. What I was doing was waiting for validation of others, and what I realized is no, people couldn't really tell, alright? They just wanted to interact with me, okay? And I knew what was going on for a very long time. There's nothing wrong if that's ever happened and stuff. It was part of my journey and all that, and I'm glad to do it. I'm all about infinite potential, alright? I'm all about infinite potential. So it took me a long time to realize that money was the ceiling on most people, and me doing it for free just was a ceiling on, wasn't a ceiling, but it didn't get people to the next screen, right? The envoy thing. So the foundation was a money exchange component to get people to the next level based on what I'd done for them, to integrate it and make it the new foundational level. Because what I found was giving it away was just banging heads on the ceiling, literally, to repeat the same patterns, okay? So I've actually shared quite a bit here, okay? So what I originally intended for this recording was to get into something called the sanctuary state, alright, which will be the second component. So if you've gained something from that and me, and you've enjoyed all this stuff, most people only get to about 15-20 minutes and stuff. So if you, as an individual, is able to endure and have that perception stamina to stick with me for all the times that I've been and stuff like that, I really appreciate that. This is the next level of service for me. I'm wanting to offer this stuff to help you if you're a conscious explorer and you feel the potential in you and you want to take you to the next level. My also part of this is I've talked a lot of times over and over the years to people about all these things, and what I find is when I'm having a one-on-one interaction, people aren't really able to perceive what I'm saying, okay? Because my linguistics and all that sort of stuff, dealing with Andrew and all that, I've worked very hard on those sort of things. They can be a bit too much and overwhelm people and stuff if they're not used to, in real time, absorbing word patterns that are designed to be the most potent combination of words there are. So me doing these videos is a way, in part, allow people to go and review them and stuff, digest them at their own pace, review them and repeat them, get the layers and all that sort of stuff. So with me, if you've been able to develop the stamina to stick with me and listen, I thank you. A lot of the people I know don't actually listen to my stuff. They don't want to hear me. They just like me being around and being in my field and the benefits, because I know how to generate income and clients and all that sort of stuff, being a manifesting generator, which I accept. But they don't necessarily want to, they use me as a component in their, what I call a spoke in their wheel of definition. They don't reciprocate, right? They don't reinvest, they don't value. And yeah, I've done a lot for a lot of people over the years. So this is my next level, and I thank you if you've been here, alright? Keep searching, keep developing. Discern me, I'm up for it. But what I'm trying to do is, based on the Galactic Special Forces level of stuff, it's not going to be like 144,000. It might be a handful of people that are really going to change things, alright? So don't underestimate, this is about you, alright? Don't underestimate how incredible you are to be able to even listen to me, find me and all that sort of stuff. I'm not trying to brag or anything like that. It's at a state of I've been trying to do stuff for 10 years to help people develop and get up to that level. So it's not all up to, say, Nikki and myself and Max, who isn't here anymore. I've always had this feeling that there's needed to be more, right? So I've invested so much into so many people. Very few are actually up to it. So this is the next level. So if you're sticking around and you're all really getting something from this, thank you. Okay. I appreciate you, and keep pushing. Okay. See what happens. Honor your infinite. Thank you.